In ecology, sustainability is the property of biological systems to remain diverse and productive indefinitely. Long-lived and healthy wetlands and forests are examples of sustainable biological systems. In more general terms, sustainability is the endurance of systems and processes. The organizing principle for sustainability is sustainable development, which includes the four interconnected domains: ecology, economics, politics and culture. Sustainability science is the study of sustainable development and environmental science. Sustainability can also be defined as a socio-ecological process characterized by the pursuit of a common ideal. An ideal is by definition unattainable in a given time, space, but endlessly approachable, and it is this endless pursuit what builds in sustainability. In the process, healthy ecosystems and environments are necessary to the survival of humans and other organisms. Ways of reducing negative human impact are environmentally friendly chemical engineering, environmental resources management and environmental protection. Information is gained from green chemistry, earth science, environmental science and conservation biology. Ecological economics studies the fields of academic research that aim to address human economies and natural ecosystems. Moving towards sustainability is also a social challenge that entails international and national law, urban planning and transport, local and individual lifestyles and ethical consumerism. Ways of living more sustainably can take many forms, from reorganizing living conditions, reappraising economic sectors or work practices, using science to develop new technologies, or designing systems in a flexible and reversible manner, and adjusting individual lifestyles that conserve natural resources. Despite the increased popularity of the use of the term sustainability, the possibility that human societies will achieve environmental sustainability has been, and continues to be, questioned, in light of environmental degradation, climate change, overconsumption, population growth and society's pursuit of indefinite economic growth in a closed system. Etymology: the name sustainability is derived from the Latin sustinere. Sustain can mean maintain, support, or endure. Since the 1980s, sustainability has been used more in the sense of human sustainability on planet Earth, and this has resulted in the most widely quoted definition of sustainability as a part of the concept sustainable development, that of the Brundtland Commission of the United Nations on March 20, 1987. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Components: 3 pillars of sustainability. The 2005 World Summit on Social Development identified sustainable development goals, such as economic development, social development and environmental protection. This view has been expressed as an illustration using 3 overlapping ellipses, indicating that the 3 pillars of sustainability are not mutually exclusive and can be mutually reinforcing. In fact, the 3 pillars are interdependent, and in the long run none can exist without the others. The 3 pillars have served as a common ground for numerous sustainability standards and certification systems in recent years, in particular in the food industry. Standards which today explicitly refer to the triple bottom line include Rainforest Alliance, Fairtrade and Nuts Certified. Some sustainability experts and practitioners have illustrated 4 pillars of sustainability, or a quadruple bottom line. One such pillar is future generations, which emphasizes the long-term thinking associated with sustainability. Sustainable development consists of balancing local and global efforts to meet basic human needs without destroying or degrading the natural environment. The question then becomes how to represent the relationship between those needs and the environment. A study from 2005 pointed out that environmental justice is as important as is sustainable development. Ecological economist Herman Daly asked, "What use is a sawmill without a forest?" For this perspective, the economy is a subsystem of human society, which is itself a subsystem of the biosphere, and a gain in one sector is a loss from another. This perspective led to the nested circles figure of economics inside society, inside the environment. The simple definition that sustainability is something that improves the quality of human life while living within the carrying capacity of supporting ecosystems, though vague, conveys the idea of sustainability having quantifiable limits. But sustainability is also a call to action, a task in progress or journey, and therefore a political process. So some definitions set out common goals and values. The Earth Charter speaks of a sustainable global society founded on respect for nature, universal human rights, economic justice, and a culture of peace. Quote, "This suggested a more complex figure of sustainability, which included the importance of the domain of politics. More than that, sustainability implies responsible and proactive decision-making and innovation that minimizes negative impact and maintains balance between ecological resilience, economic prosperity, political justice and cultural vibrancy to ensure a desirable planet for all species now and in the future." Specific types of sustainability include sustainable agriculture, sustainable architecture, or ecological economics. Understanding sustainable development is important, but without clear targets, an unfocused term like liberty or justice. It has also been described as a dialogue of values that challenge the sociology of development. Circles of sustainability. While the United Nations Millennium Declaration identified principles and treaties on sustainable development, including economic development, social development and environmental protection, it continued using three domains: economics, environment and social sustainability. More recently, using a systematic domain model that responds to the debates over the last decade. The Circles of Sustainability approach distinguished four domains of economic, ecological, political and cultural sustainability. This in accord with the United Nations Agenda 21, which specifies culture as the fourth domain of sustainable development. The model is now being used by organizations such as the United Nations Cities Programme and Metropolis Shaping the Future. Integral elements of sustainability are research and innovation activities. A telling example is the European Environmental Research and Innovation Policy. It aims at defining and implementing a transformative agenda to greening the economy and the society as a whole so to make them sustainable. Research and innovation in Europe are financially supported by the program Horizon 2020, which is also open to participation worldwide. Resiliency. Resiliency in ecology is the capacity of an ecosystem to absorb disturbance and still retain its basic structure and viability. Resilience thinking evolved from the need to manage interactions between human-constructed systems and natural ecosystems in a sustainable way. Despite the fact that to policymakers a definition remains elusive, resilience thinking addresses how much planetary ecological systems can withstand assault from human disturbances and still deliver the services current and future generations need from them. It is also concerned with commitment from geopolitical policymakers to promote and manage essential planetary ecological resources in order to promote resilience and achieve sustainability of these essential resources for benefit of future generations of life. The resiliency of an ecosystem, and thereby its sustainability, can be reasonably measured at junctures or events where the combination of naturally occurring regenerative forces interact with the energy, released into the ecosystem from disturbances. A practical view of sustainability is closed systems that maintain processes of productivity indefinitely by replacing resources used by actions of people with resources of equal or greater value by those same people without degrading or endangering natural biotic systems. In this way, sustainability can be concretely measured in human projects if there is a transparent accounting of the resources put back into the ecosystem to replace those displaced. In nature, the accounting occurs naturally through process of adaptation as an ecosystem returns to viability from an external disturbance. The adaptation is a multi-stage process that begins with the disturbance event, followed by absorption, utilization, or deflection of the energy or energies that the external forces created. In analyzing systems such as urban and national parks, dams, farms and gardens, theme parks, open pit mines, water catchments, one way to look at the relationship between sustainability and resiliency is to view the former with a long-term vision and resiliency as the capacity of human engineers to respond to immediate environmental events. History. The history of sustainability traces human-dominated ecological systems from the earliest civilizations to the present time. This history is characterized by the increased regional success of a particular society, followed by crises that were either resolved, producing sustainability, or not, leading to decline. In early human history, the use of fire and desire for specific foods may have altered the natural composition of plant and animal communities. Between 8,000 and 10,000 years ago, agrarian communities emerged which depended largely on their environment and the creation of a structure of permanence. The Western Industrial Revolution of the 18th to 19th centuries tapped into the vast growth potential of the energy in fossil fuels. Coal was used to power ever more efficient engines and later to generate electricity. Modern sanitation systems and advances in medicine protected large populations from disease. In the mid-20th century, a gathering environmental movement pointed out that there were environmental costs associated with the many material benefits that were now being enjoyed. In the late 20th century, environmental problems became global in scale. The 1973 and 1979 energy crises demonstrated the extent to which the global community had become dependent on non-renewable energy resources. In the 21st century, there is increasing global awareness of the threat posed by the human greenhouse effect, produced largely by forest clearing and the burning of fossil fuels. Principles and concepts. The philosophical and analytic framework of sustainability draws on and connects with many different disciplines and fields. In recent years, an area that has come to be called sustainability science has emerged. The United Nations Millennium Declaration identified principles and treaties on sustainable development, including economic development, social development and environmental protection. The Circles of Sustainability approach distinguishes the four domains of economic, ecological, political and cultural sustainability. This in accord with the United Nations Agenda 21, which specifies culture as the fourth domain of sustainable development. Scale and context. Sustainability is studied and managed over many scales of time and space and in many contexts of environmental, social and economic organization. The focus ranges from the total carrying capacity of planet Earth to the sustainability of economic sectors, ecosystems, countries, municipalities, neighborhoods, home gardens, individual lives, individual goods and services, occupations, lifestyles, behavior patterns and so on. In short, it can entail the full compass of biological and human activity or any part of it. As Daniel Botkin, author and environmentalist, has stated, we see a landscape that is always in flux, changing over many scales of time and space. The sheer size and complexity of the planetary ecosystem has proved problematic for the design of practical measures to reach global sustainability. To shed light on the big picture, explorer and sustainability campaigner Jason Lewis has drawn parallels to other, more tangible closed systems. For example, he likens human existence on Earth, isolated as the planet is in space, whereby people cannot be evacuated to relieve population pressure and resources cannot be imported to prevent accelerated depletion of resources, to life at sea on a small boat isolated by water. In both cases, he argues, exercising the precautionary principle as a key factor in survival. Consumption. A major driver of human impact on Earth systems is the destruction of biophysical resources, and especially the Earth's ecosystems. The environmental impact of a community or of humankind as a whole depends both on population and impact per person, which in turn depends in complex ways on what resources are being used, whether or not those resources are renewable, and the scale of the human activity relative to the carrying capacity of the ecosystems involved. Careful resource management can be applied at many scales, from economic sectors like agriculture, manufacturing and industry, to work organizations, the consumption patterns of households and individuals, and to the resource demands of individual goods and services. One of the initial attempts to express human impact mathematically was developed in the 1970s and is called the IPAT formula. This formulation attempts to explain human consumption in terms of three components: population numbers, levels of consumption, and impact per unit of resource use. The equation is expressed I equals P times A times T, where I equals environmental impact, P equals population, A equals affluence, T equals technology measurement. Sustainability measurement is a term that denotes the measurements used as the quantitative basis for the informed management of sustainability. The metrics used for the measurement of sustainability are evolving. They include indicators, benchmarks, or audits, sustainability standards and certification systems like fair trade and organic, indexes and accounting, as well as assessment, appraisal and other reporting systems. They are applied over a wide range of spatial and temporal scales. Some of the best-known and most widely used sustainability measures include corporate sustainability reporting, triple bottom line accounting, World Sustainability Society, circles of sustainability, and estimates of the quality of sustainability governance for individual countries using the Environmental Sustainability Index and Environmental Performance Index. Population. According to the 2008 revision of the official United Nations Population Estimates and Projections, the world population is projected to reach 7 billion early in 2012, up from the current 6.9 billion, to exceed 9 billion people by 2050. Most of the increase will be in developing countries whose population is projected to rise from 5.6 billion in 2009 to 7.9 billion in 2050. This increase will be distributed among the population aged 15 to 59 and 60 or over because the number of children under age 15 in developing countries is predicted to decrease. In contrast, the population of the more developed regions is expected to undergo only slight increase from 1.23 billion to 1.28 billion, and this would have declined to 1.15 billion but for a projected net migration from developing to developed countries, which is expected to average 2.4 million persons annually from 2009 to 2050. Long-term estimates in 2004 of global population suggest a peak at around 2070 of 9 to 10 billion people, and then a slow decrease to 8.4 billion by 2100. Emerging economies like those of China and India aspire to the living standards of the Western world, as does the non-industrialized world in general. It is the combination of population increase in the developing world and unsustainable consumption levels in the developed world that poses a stark challenge to sustainability, carrying capacity at the global scale. Scientific data now indicates that humans are living beyond the carrying capacity of planet Earth, and that this cannot continue indefinitely. This scientific evidence comes from many sources but is presented in detail in the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment and the Planetary Boundaries Framework. An early detailed examination of global limits was published in the 1972 book Limits to Growth, which has prompted follow-up commentary and analysis. A 2012 review in Nature by 22 international researchers expressed concerns that the Earth may be approaching a state shift in its biosphere. The ecological footprint measures human consumption in terms of the biologically productive land needed to provide the resources and absorb the wastes of the average global citizen. In 2008 it required 2.7 global hectares per person, 30% more than the natural biological capacity of 2.1 global hectares. The resulting ecological deficit must be met from unsustainable extra sources, and these are obtained in three ways: embedded in the goods and services of world trade, taken from the past, or borrowed from the future as unsustainable resource usage. The figure examines sustainability at the scale of individual countries by contrasting their ecological footprint with the UN Human Development Index. The graph shows what is necessary for countries to maintain an acceptable standard of living for the citizens while, at the same time, maintaining sustainable resource use. The general trend is for higher standards of living to become less sustainable. As always, population growth has a marked influence on levels of consumption and the efficiency of resource use. The sustainability goal is to raise the global standard of living without increasing the use of resources beyond globally sustainable levels, that is, to not exceed one planet consumption. Information generated by reports at the national, regional and city scales confirm the global trend towards societies that are becoming less sustainable over time. Romanian-American economist Nicholas Georgescu-Roegen, a progenitor in economics and a paradigm founder of ecological economics, has argued that the carrying capacity of Earth, that is, Earth's capacity to sustain human populations and consumption levels, is bound to decrease sometime in the future as Earth's finite stock of mineral resources is presently being extracted and put to use. Leading ecological economist and steady-state theorist Herman Daly, a student of Georgescu-Roegen, has propounded the same argument. Global human impact on biodiversity at a fundamental level, energy flow and biogeochemical cycling set an upper limit on the number and mass of organisms in any ecosystem. Human impacts on the Earth are demonstrated in a general way through detrimental changes in the global biogeochemical cycles of chemicals that are critical to life, most notably those of water, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen and phosphorus. The Millennium Ecosystem Assessment is an international synthesis by over 1,000 of the world's leading biological scientists that analyzes the state of the Earth's ecosystems and provides summaries and guidelines for decision makers. It concludes that human activity is having a significant and escalating impact on the biodiversity of world ecosystems, reducing both the resilience and biocapacity. The report refers to natural systems as humanity's life support system, providing essential ecosystem services. The assessment measures 24 ecosystem services, concluding that only 4 have shown improvement over the last 50 years, 15 are in serious decline, and 5 are in a precarious condition. Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals are the current harmonized set of 17 future international development targets. The official agenda for sustainable development, adopted on the 25th of September 2015, has 92 paragraphs, with the main paragraph outlining the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and its associated 169 targets. This included the following 17 goals: poverty, end poverty in all its forms everywhere; food, end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture; health, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages; education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all; women, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls; water, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all; energy, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all; economy, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all; infrastructure, build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization and foster innovation; inequality, reduce inequality within and among countries; habitation, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable; consumption, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns; climate, take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts; marine ecosystems, conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas and marine resources for sustainable development; ecosystems, protect, restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss; institutions, promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all and build effective, accountable and inclusive institutions at all levels; sustainability, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development. As of August 2015, there were 169 proposed targets for these goals and 304 proposed indicators to show compliance. The Sustainable Development Goals replace the 8 Millennium Development Goals, which expired at the end of 2015. The MDGs were established in 2000 following the Millennium Summit of the United Nations, adopted by the 189 United Nations member states at the time and more than 20 international organizations. These goals were advanced to help achieve the following Sustainable Development Standards by 2015. To eradicate extreme poverty and hunger, to achieve universal primary education, to promote gender equality and empower women, to reduce child mortality, to improve maternal health, to combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, to ensure environmental sustainability, to develop a global partnership for development, sustainable development, according to the data that member countries represented to the United Nations. Cuba was the only nation in the world in 2006 that met the Worldwide Fund for Nature's definition of sustainable development, with an ecological footprint of less than 1.8 hectares per capita, 1.5, and a human development index of over 0.8, 0.855.